the 5th District, Josh Gottheimer, Congressman Josh Gottheimer against Frank Pallotta. Pallotta's background is in finance. He worked at Goldman Sachs, former finance guy. He hasn't held public office. Josh has amassed a fortune of $14 million in this race. I wonder if you guys could help me understand that. But first, let's just talk about the race in general. How do you see this going? It's rated by Cook again as lean Democrat, but not safe Democrat.
Look, it's kind of extremism versus common sense, right? You've got a guy in Pallotta who supports the Oath Keepers, the guy that overran the Capitol on January 6th, doesn't believe in any exceptions for abortion, supported the Trump bill to gut salt. And then you've got Josh Gottheimer, who nobody's going to accuse him of being an extremist, right? He is the definition of a moderate.
You know, I should have said, Julie, in the intro, he's a co-founder of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is equal number Republican and Democrat, and has been at the center of negotiating agreements on several of the big issues we've been reading about in the last year.
I mean, look, Josh Gottheimer is exactly the profile of that district. He's exactly the profile of what Bergen County, which is an incredibly tax-sensitive county, regardless of political affiliation, want, right? He's a guy who, as you said, lower prescription drug costs and focus incredibly on bringing money back into the district, fighting against what he calls the moocher states who take more money out of New Jersey than they want to send back. Voted to fund, you can't accuse him of defunding the police. The guy literally voted for more funding for the police. And you compare that with somebody like Pallotta, who supports people who attacked the police on January 6th. And suddenly you have a contrast that I think Republicans would make a big mistake trying to paint Josh Gottheimer as some wide-eyed, liberal who's ready to burn everything down.
What do you
He's
think,
the opposite of that.
I think Josh Gottheimer has done a good job for 6 years, raising money, as you said. He's a very aggressive fundraiser, and that makes you a strong incumbent. But importantly, he really has reached out across the aisle, and I think that's earned him a reputation in what is a competitive district. Before re-election, kind of the most competitive district, he was getting endorsements from Republicans in the past, and he did a press conference with Donald Trump in the Rose Garden when Donald Trump was president. Right, there were a lot of Republicans who were afraid to appear with Donald Trump, but Josh Gottheimer was out there appearing with Donald Trump. I mean, that shows a willingness to work across the aisle. That certainly helped him. But I think people have made a mistake kind of sleeping on this race a little bit. It's even with redistricting, it's still not any slam dunk Democratic district. I was talking to somebody in the Pallotta camp who says they have internal polls that have this thing within the margin of error. They're not saying they're winning, but they're saying it's much closer than people think. And kind of despite all the things that Julie said, allegations about Frank Pallotta, the race is turning much more on economy and jobs and inflation and much of the national mood. Voters, in Bergen County are really not focused so much on January 6th or other things. They've moved on to not just Bergen County, obviously across the entirety of the district, but they've moved on to what are the most pressing issues of the day. And I think that not just for Pallotta, but for all the challengers in these districts, they have a shot. Now, listen, Democrats threw Malinowski under the bus in redistricting, right? So this district and the other two districts we'll talk about got better for the Democrats. This is a much harder hill to climb for Pallotta or any Republican to run. So I think it's tough, but I think it's closer than people think.
Okay, and to just explain a little bit on the redistricting, the Democrats agreed to a map with Republicans that took a bunch of Republicans out of Malinowski's district and fortified the other three. So apparently, I guess their logic is, look, we're going to lose somebody. Let's throw Malinowski over the boat and save the other three.
I think if you are Democrats nationally and you look at New Jersey, which historically had been 6-6 or 7-6 for either party, if you can lock it at 9-3, that's a great win for Democrats. They're willing to sacrifice one to save three nationally.
Right.